All right, welcome back. Coach John here with Freedom Nutrition Coaching. Great to have you with us. Today, we're going to talk about 10 easy ways to boost your metabolism. Of course, if you want to learn more about what I do, you can always go to freedomnutritioncoach.com. That's where you can find me. Also, I'll just quickly share here I do offer a free 7-day challenge. In fact, I've got three of them. One is called End Emotional Eating, one is called Fat Loss Fundamentals, and the third one is called Build Your Roadmap. So, all three of these free 7-day challenges, you can sign up from this page here. And lastly, I do have a book called Crush Your Cravings. If you want to get a free copy of that as well, you can head over to freedomnutritioncoach.com/book. So with that out of the way, let's dive into 10 easy ways to boost your metabolism, because, metabolism for a lot of people, maybe it feels a little bit like a mystery. There's some things that we don't necessarily understand about it. So when we hear people talk about metabolism, what exactly are we referring to? Well, technically, we're talking about all the chemical reactions that happen in your body. Now, these chemical reactions are needed to keep you alive and functioning, but they also require energy or calories in order for them to happen. So, where we get a little bit confused is the word metabolism is often used interchangeably with metabolic rate. And metabolic rate refers to the number of calories you burn over a period of time. And usually we're talking about a day or 24 hours. So now we want a higher metabolic rate because obviously with a higher metabolic rate, it's easier to burn calories, it's easier to lose weight and to keep it off. And so with that, let's dive into 10 easy ways to boost your metabolism. Point number one here, which is going to be eat protein at every meal. So why is this important here? Well, so when we eat food, eating food can increase your metabolic rate for a couple of hours. That's because of something called the thermic effect of food, or TEF. You don't have to remember that. There's no test on this, but what it is, it's caused by the extra calories that we use to digest, absorb, and process the food that we eat. But when we eat protein, it causes the biggest rise in this TEF, or the thermic effect of food. So it can increase your metabolic rate by 15 to 30%, compared to about 5 to 10% for carbohydrates and between 0 and 3% for fats. And so eating protein can boost our metabolic rate for a few hours after we've consumed it. Now, on top of that, protein keeps you full for longer, so you're less likely to mindlessly snack between meals. Pardon me. And protein also ensures that you're losing fat and not muscle. Because when we say weight loss, really what we're talking about is we want to lose fat because we don't want to lose that valuable muscle. Muscle for men and women drives your metabolic rate. So it's really important that when we go through the process of weight loss, in particular, that we hold on to as much muscle as possible. So let's move on to point number two here, which is to drink more cold water. So drinking water, whether it's carbonated or sparkling water, or whether it's plain, maybe put a few drops of lemon juice or a 0-calorie sweetener in it, it means that you're not drinking a bunch of empty liquid calories. But the cool thing is when we drink water, it also temporarily boosts your metabolism. It speeds it up a little bit. So studies have shown that drinking 500 mils, or roughly 2 cups, sorry, I don't know. I'm Canadian. I don't know how many ounces that is, but drink about 500 mils. Maybe it's a pint. There we go. It increases your resting metabolism by about 10 to 30% for about an hour. So if you imagine I wouldn't necessarily do this every single hour, but if every hour you're drinking 500 mils of water, you're upping your metabolism. But if you're doing that every hour, you're probably having to use the washroom a lot. But point being, when we drink cold water, in particular, we also have to burn some calories in order to heat that water up to your body's temperature, your body's internal temperature, right? And so we burn a little bit extra having to do that as well. So drinking water maybe half an hour before you eat as well can help you to eat less empty calories as well. So number three here. Number three is going to be to do an interval workout. So what do we mean when we say an interval workout? Well, we very often call this HIIT, which stands for high intensity interval training. Interval training, in a nutshell, is when we switch back and forth between a high intensity activity, that's one that raises your heart rate, and a low intensity activity, one that lowers your heart rate. Now, this type of activity in particular can help you burn more fat by increasing your metabolic rate even after your workout is finished. This is called the afterburn effect. So it boosts your metabolism for 36 to 48 hours after you finish your workout. But it's very important to note that intensity is relative. So if you're watching this, probably you're not an Olympic cyclist or Olympic level sprinter. And so what you see as intense might look a little bit different than, say, a professional athlete. What I'm saying is don't go out there and try and kill yourself. Really with interval training, we just want to transition between periods of a little bit more intense activity and periods of a bit lower activity. You don't have to kill yourself in doing this. And the other thing is, it's not necessarily a case of more is better. You don't need to do more than 2 or 3 interval workouts per week. So if you do too much high intensity training, ultimately what ends up happening is you ramp up your appetite subconsciously and you'll unknowingly eat more. So you do want to make, if you can, interval training a part of what you do, but just don't make it like, don't try to do it 5 or 6 days a week. So, number 4 is lift heavy things. So, we know that muscle is more metabolically active than fat. In other words, for our body to maintain the tissue of muscle, it requires about 3 times as much energy as fat. So basically, a pound of muscle burns about 6 calories per hour. A pound of fat burns about 2 calories per hour. So, meaning that if we build more muscle, we can increase our metabolism. It's almost like upgrading the engine in your car. It just has more power available to it and it burns more fuel. In this case, we actually want to do that. Now, the most effective way to build muscle, both for men and women, is to lift weights or do some other form of resistance training. Because more muscle means that you burn more calories each day, even at rest. Because the more muscle we have, the more calories it costs to keep that tissue active. So lifting weights also helps you retain muscle. So when we lift weights, we indicate to our body, I want to don't lose this muscle. In other words, burn the fat for fuel, but I need this muscle, right? And so it helps us to keep that muscle. The muscle helps us to keep our metabolism boosted when we're burning fat. All right, so number 5 here. Stand up more. It sounds a little bit cliche, but we sit a lot these days. Sitting has been called the new smoking. So this is partly because when we sit for long periods of time, we burn fewer calories than when we're standing or when we're moving, and this leads to weight gain because very often sitting also ends up getting paired with boredom and boredom snacking. So if we think about an afternoon of standing at work can actually burn 200 extra calories. If you have a desk job, what you could do is you could try standing up for short periods of time to kind of break the length of time that you spend sitting down. And so it's not that you necessarily have to stand all day, but if you can think about just maybe getting up a few times over the course of the day, if you have the option of doing some standing at work, you do burn more calories than if you're sitting down. So number 6 is drink green tea. So green tea has been shown to boost your metabolism by about 4 to 5%. And what it does is green tea in particular helps to convert some of the fat that's stored in your body into what we call free fatty acids. Again, no test on this. I'm just explaining how this works. So it increases fat burning by about 15% overall. And drinking green tea is really, I think, helpful in terms of maybe you're finding yourself a little bit stuck with a weight loss. You're in this place of a weight loss plateau and you're kind of stuck. Green tea can help you break through that. So it's going to boost your metabolism by about 4 to 5%, and it's going to increase fat burning in particular because of certain compounds that we find in green tea. So the next point that I want to touch on here is actually get better sleep. Now, I think this one's great because this is one of the easiest things. Like, how much effort is it required to sleep? Like, lay in bed and fall asleep, right? But interestingly, so sleep and our quality of sleep can really impact our metabolism. So it can affect whether or not we have a healthy metabolism. So lack of sleep is known, like in the scientific research, that there's a major risk of obesity accompanying it because sleep deprivation actually leads to a slower metabolism. And it's ironic because sometimes we feel pressured to sleep less to try to do more work, but the response is our body lowers our metabolic rate by 7 to 10%. And in particular, it seems to affect our carbohydrate metabolism more so than fat. In other words, if we're sleep deprived, we're more likely to store carbohydrates as fat. It's a little bit more than if we were well rested. Now, the other part of being sleep deprived means that you'll struggle more with things like emotional eating and boredom eating. And when that takes place, it's because your brain is tired and it becomes more difficult to regulate sort of these impulsive emotions that you might feel. And so, lack of sleep also boosts this hunger hormone in your brain called ghrelin. And I remember it because ghrelin sounds like gremlin. I think of hunger as like little gremlins on the inside, but ghrelin means that you get the munchies more than usual. So, lack of sleep can really mess with your metabolism and it can really mess with your hunger and kind of your ability to regulate your appetite. So, getting sleep, probably of the 10 easy ways, this is probably the easiest one. It's like climb into bed and go to sleep. So number 8 is drink coffee. Now, studies have shown that caffeine in coffee in particular can boost your metabolism by 5 to 10%, which is actually pretty significant when we think about it. So, like green tea, it also promotes fat burning. Right now, there's a caveat here because if you load it up with cream and sugar or get your coffee in the form of like a frappuccino, you totally negate any effects from drinking coffee because of the calories you consume. But coffee itself, in particular black coffee, will blunt your appetite, which also means that you're less likely to boredom snack mindlessly. So coffee can be really helpful. Now, it's I should also note that over time you do develop a tolerance to caffeine, and so this effect begins to wear off. Now, you can probably counter this by occasionally switching to decaf. Now, for true coffee drinkers, that might sound like sacrilege, but by switching to decaf or maybe doing half decaf for a period of time, sort of lowering your consumption of caffeine. Or we could even say not drinking coffee every single day can help you to be more sensitive to caffeine so you get more of those metabolism boosting effects. And yeah, like I said, even decaf without the caffeine will blunt your appetite. And so that can take the edge off of your hunger. So drinking decaf coffee, if you don't want or if you are caffeine sensitive, that can be really helpful as well. So number 9 is cook with coconut oil. Now, this is an interesting one, but coconut oil has a special kind of saturated fat. It's called MCT or medium chain triglyceride. Again, you don't have to remember that, but maybe you've heard of MCTs and kind of their special properties. So, what it is that MCTs can actually boost your metabolism, unlike the saturated fat in something like butter, for example. So, butter doesn't have these MCTs. So, in other words, if you happen to be drinking bulletproof coffee, you're better off with coconut oil or MCT oil than you are with maybe butter in your coffee. Now, I don't drink bulletproof coffee, but you see, most fats only boost your metabolism by about 3% when you consume them. But consuming MCTs can boost it by up to 10%. So, coconut oil is kind of special in this regard. Now, of course, that being said, I still want to make a remark that all fats in general are fairly calorie dense. And so it could be a little bit of it can be a losing sum game if you're, let's say if you eat 100 calories of fat, you're going to use 10 of those calories to burn it, right? And so we don't want to think that, well, hey, if eating fat, boosts my metabolism, eating more fat boosts it more, and so on, right? So we do want to find a balance here. But number 10 here is space out your meals by 4 to 6 hours. Now, this interval is quite specific, actually. So, well, let's say gone are the days where we're told you have to eat every 2 to 3 hours to stoke the metabolic fire. That was the term that was often used. We now know that if we space out our meals and our snacks, our body becomes more metabolically flexible. I like to call it dual fuel. So, what it means is our body becomes more efficient at burning both fats and carbohydrates, and we can switch back and forth between the two rather than only being good at burning carbohydrates or only being good at burning fat. So we can do this by eating, say, 3 or 4 meals without snacking in between. So maintaining that 4 to 6 hour space. And we don't really want to go too much beyond that 6 hours other than overnight, unless you're practicing intermittent fasting. But generally, what I've observed is that when we start going past that 6 hour mark, the hunger starts to get a little bit more difficult to manage. But when we eat 3 or 4 meals and we get rid of snacking in between, this is really moving us towards what we call metabolic optimization. Now, I do have a bonus tip here as well that I want to share with you, because I was just kind of talking about snacking. Because let's say that you do want to eat a snack. Well, the way that I like to encourage people to do this is to actually put your snack or your treat at the end of a meal instead of a between meal snack. Because what happens here is if we go to eat between a meal, there's nothing else in our stomach, and usually a snack is going to be high sugar, high fat, low protein. And so that means it's going to be digested quite rapidly, spike your blood sugar, sort of lead to mood swings and cravings and things like that. But say you want to have a cookie or a bit of ice cream or something like that. When you eat it at the end of a meal, you're not eating this to satisfy hunger, right? In this case, you're actually only eating it for enjoyment. And that's the point of eating treats, really, is enjoyment. Treats should not be used to satisfy hunger. That's a really bad idea because treats tend to be very calorie dense. And so if you put it at the end of a meal, what this means is you're less likely to overeat the treat because you've already met your body's need for nutrition and nourishment. You got food in your stomach, and so it's not going to spike your blood sugar. It's not going to lead to mood swings and cravings and crashes and things like that. And so that's kind of my bonus tip here. Now, I just want to say, like, to sum it up, the bottom line here, your metabolism isn't broken and it's not set in stone either. So your metabolism is dynamic. What that means is it adapts to the inputs that you give it. So you can optimize your metabolism even if you're over 50. So each one of these changes, I'll say each one kind of by themselves is relatively small, but together they can actually add up to pretty significant changes in boosting your metabolism. Now, it might be difficult to try to obviously to implement, 10 things all at once. And so my recommendation here would be that maybe you do try one or two of these things at first, establish them as a habit, and then kind of build something else in. And so, in summary, here, thinking about this, well, what do we want to do with this information, right? Because at the end of the day, you kind of have three options whenever you consume something like this, and that is one is to do nothing. So, hey, this was kind of interesting. I learned a couple things, meh, but really, information isn't helpful if you don't take action on it, right? So, if you change nothing, nothing changes. But if you've watched this or if you're following along with this, I suspect there's something you would like to change. You'd like to create some change in your life. And so the next point would be to say to do something with this. Maybe you pick one thing to work on and you decide how you're going to put this into action each day for the next week or the next 2 weeks. But sometimes it can feel a little bit confusing to know where to start. And so that leads to option number three, and that is to have someone take all the guesswork out of it for you. And that's what I do in my program with Freedom Nutrition Coaching. Is I take all the guesswork out of it. I help you build a roadmap step by step and coach you through it and in implementing that as well. So I also want to talk. You remember at the beginning, I mentioned a couple things here. I want to touch base again. I'm going to show you a couple things here. One is this free 7-day challenge that I do offer you. So maybe you're not in a place where you're quite ready to invest in full-time coaching, but you do want to take some forward steps. So I'm gonna load up another page here and just show you this here and show you how you can access this free 7-day challenge. And so if we swing over to this freedomnutritioncoach.com/7-day-challenge, for some reason, maybe because I'm running this live stream, the website's a little bit slow to load up here. But let's see here. All right, cool. We're there. 7-day challenge. Okay. So what you can do here is if you scroll down, you see there's a button here that says sign up. And if you scroll down, there's actually those three challenges I mentioned. So a little bit of preamble there, kind of explaining how these challenges work. Number one is to end emotional eating. So the code you'd want to use is 7-day-EEE. That's this code here. And that's, I know what to do, but I can't seem to do it. I always end up giving into cravings. So that's where I think that one's really helpful. Fat loss fundamentals. So we've been talking about boosting your metabolism. So this one is 7-day dash challenge. If you want to use that one, I'm confused with all the conflicting information. I just don't even know where to start. Fat loss fundamentals is great for that. And the third one is build your personal roadmap. And I call this one 7-day dash action. So that is, I know the things I need to do, but I don't know what's most important right now. And this helps you to get clarity around that. And so you'll see there's a sign up form here, name, email address, all that kind of stuff. And you click, you put in that code in the box that says, where are we? Voucher code. You put that code in there. That means there's no charge. And then when you do that, I send you an email, a welcome email saying, hey, super excited to have you as part of this challenge. I'm going to give you access to my Freedom Nutrition app as well. And so allow you to have a food diary. There's some bonus nutrition challenges in there to keep you motivated. You can track your food in the food diary. And every day you get a little reminder, hey, this is what you're working on. Check yes or no, so you can track your habits and behaviors as well. So really what I want to do is provide you with some options here to help you further your fat loss and weight loss goals. Ultimately, that's what we want to do. And my goal when I work with someone is to help you not just lose weight, but keep it off forever. And the way that I think about this is we don't want to put an end date on really building a healthy lifestyle. We want to make this our default way of living, our default set. And so what I like to do is say, okay, let's start with actually, quickly, I should swing over and show you crush your cravings as well while we're here. Let me just swing over. This is freedomnutritioncoach.com/book. So let me just swing over there. I think it takes a minute. Like I said, because I'm streaming this, it might take a minute to load up here. So pardon me for that. Okay. So we'll get that loaded up. I'll just tell you a little bit about Crush Your Cravings and what this is about as well, because I want to provide. So obviously, I give people some paid options if you want to hire me and work with me in a one-on-one capacity. But I also want to give you some sort of DIY options where you can take this information and implement it yourself. And so maybe you're not in the place where you can invest in coaching, and that's totally okay. If that's not where you're at right now, cool. I want to give you some free DIY options as well. So Let's throw this back up here again, and I'll drop that there. Okay, so grab your copy of Crush Your Cravings. So that is, here's the URL again, freedomnutrition.coach.com/book. And that's going to take you to this page here where you can get your copy now. Pardon me. And let's just show you what you're going to find here. Just quickly, 4-step method to crush any cravings fast, the secret eating rhythm to eliminate mindless snacking, how to sleep your way to a lower weight. So a little bit more detail on some of the things that I've shared here, and a bonus, learn how one of my clients, 60-year-old Rhonda, lost 50 pounds after more than 20 years of dieting frustration. So you just enter your name and your email address and click submit, and we send that over to your inbox. So I do it that way so that you can get it any 24 hours a day kind of thing. I just automatically send it to you. So crushyourcravings.com/book to get your copy of that. So that gives you some ideas to work with. It's been, I really hope that you do find this helpful, and okay, there's some free resources, there's some quality information. There are options to work with me, to hire me as your coach if you want to take it to the next level. More than happy to do that as well. So ultimately, this is up to you, but I would love to be a part of your fat loss, weight loss journey where you're building your healthy lifestyle so you can do all of those amazing things that you want to do. So thanks so much for tuning in today and being a part of this, and have a great day.